Hello.
Hi.
And who am I speaking to?
Chanel Cook-Chikunda. Well, I studied art at Drew University, Ducre School of Art, years and years ago.
What was your inspiration to start painting to become an artist?
Probably my father, because he was an artist, even though he worked a day job. So I started drawing at a very young age with my dad, and it was, I guess, meditative, and it was also a means of our bonding and whatnot. So that's really when I started creating art. But in terms of doing it professionally and selling my pieces, that wasn't until I was an adult. So I've had, I would say probably the first or the most notable to me, early on, I had a piece in a traveling show that the theme of the show was about how slavery affected African Americans, and in terms of our sense of self, our consciousness. And I was one of the only women in the show, and so the particular piece that I did spoke specifically to how slavery affected a woman's sense of self, and not from so much a feminist perspective, but just how it really robbed African American women of a sense of femininity and womanhood. This was in a traveling show that went to South Africa and I think Germany, Amsterdam, a couple of different European countries, and also New York. I felt like, I'm a real artist now. I was awarded a residency recently for the Farrell Gallery in Newark. I believe it's a 6-month term. I had to defer it until next year for personal crisis reasons, but that was a major achievement, because I definitely, I'm not one to be putting myself out there in terms of competition. I just sort of paint and do my thing and put it out there, but not in a competitive sense. So I really felt accomplished that they selected me for the residency.
And what mediums do you work in?
Oil and acrylic. I do, to get to the point of having a completed piece, I do a representational portrait or otherwise, usually in oil paint, and then I do another piece that in some way contains silhouettes of figures or landscapes or otherwise, sometimes they're objects, and I usually do that in acrylic, and then I cut one of the pieces into vertical strips, and I cut the other piece into horizontal strips, weave them back together, and attach them to a support, and that creates the final piece.
So what are you working on for the WTF exhibition?
I'm doing the album covers. I'm combining 2 album covers instead of just doing 2 separate paintings of the album covers, and one of them is Birthday, the new birth, and the other one is Stuff. Well, it's Stuff 2, but the album itself just says Stuff on the cover, and I'm combining those 2.
Can we see it?
No.
Humpty Dumpty was a big fat egg. Humpty Dumpty was a big fat egg.
What inspired you to work with the WTF exhibition?
I like the concept. I like the concept of album covers in general, and specifically from the era of the 70s and Black Soul. I don't know if it's necessarily Black Soul, but that's when I think 70s. That's what I think of.
Any album covers that really stand out from that era to you?
Aside from the ones that I'm using?
Yes.
Probably Ohio Players Fire is a definite standout. What else? Maybe Led Zeppelin. I really like the self-titled. you know, because it's got the Hindenburg going down in flames. I love that imagery. I'm influenced by the personas of Carrie Mae Weems, Louise Nevelson, George O'Keeffe, Richard Serra, you know, more so than their actual work, and two of them are sculptors, one's a photographer, more so than the actual work, the people that they were as professional artists.
Did you grow up in a musical household?
Yes.
Who was the musician, or who were the musicians in your family?
My mother played piano, but my father played jazz drums, and all of his brothers also played saxophone, two different types of saxophone, and the drums.
And yourself?
Jazz music. I play the flute.
So, with the artwork that you won't let us see, what inspired you, or what was your inspiration for the pieces that you selected to recreate?
Well, the stuff cover, I like the way it looks. I like that it's a close-up with the long fingernails, which kind of reminds me of my mom growing up, because she had long, very fly fingernails. And the new birth cover, which is a series of black eggs in an egg carton. Just, I was always fascinated by that album cover for as long as I can remember. My father has this really extensive record collection, and so we just filled up our basement, and I would go down to the basement and flip through the records and just pull out this specific record cover just because the eggs fascinated me so much. So this was right up my alley, this exhibition. That was the first thing I thought of, were the black eggs of this album cover.
And is that what contributes to your high cholesterol?
No, that's the white eggs.